Chronicle, they had a listing of all the top foreclosures by zip code. You should take a look at that because it gives you specific areas that you can target. Because if there are a lot of foreclosures in an area, then that means you've got people who are motivated. And I'm going to give you 3 quick rules that I look for when I look for houses. I look for houses that need a lot of repairs. I look for houses that have a lot of equity. And I look for people that have motivation. Motivation to sell. And I'm not talking about just needing or wanting to sell their house because they're looking for a new house. I'm talking about people who unfortunately, through whatever reason, got into some kind of financial difficulties. We're in the highest foreclosure market that we've ever been in the Houston area right now. There are reasons for that. Some of it has to do with banking. Some of it has to do with the markets. Some of it has to do with the job, the economies. All those things factor together. We're still in the highest foreclosure rated environment that we've ever been in. And what that means is that people are losing their houses left and right. And as such, it gives us the ability to go after those houses and see what kind of profit we can make. So what you ought to do is look for legal advertisements. Look for the newspapers or online advertisements, such as the Daily Court Review. Inside the Daily Court Review, inside that newspaper that's out there, and it's delivered every day, you could actually have it emailed to you, it talks about people who are facing foreclosure, divorce, probate, credit issues, things like that, all that indicate one possibility, and that is people who are motivated. Because let's face it, if you've ever known anybody who's gone through a divorce, they have to handle the house. That's a part of the process. If you've known anybody who relocated, and I'll share this with you, when my wife and I first got married, the first 12 years we were married, we moved 11 times. I was motivated to sell several of those times simply because we had to go to the new job. One thing people do not want is 2 payments. Foreclosure notices, back tax notices, all those things are on there. And I got to tell you, as long as you know what to look for and you know the things to target in, that kind of information is golden. Because all you do is you send them a simple letter, a simple postcard, something like that, letting them know what you do. You buy houses. So if you have information and you know exactly what it is that to do with it once the phone calls come in, well, you're golden. And remember we talked about setting up a command post? That's where you need to be ready. You need to have the ability to accept phone calls. And I want to share a little resource with you real quick. One of the resources that I'll share with you is grandcentral.com. Okay? It's a place where you can get a phone number. It's a local phone number. And because it's a local phone number, you don't have to answer it. It goes right to your computer. And nowadays, almost everything can be done through the computer. So kind of keep that in mind. But we're going to talk about 4 different things that we look for. One is probate, one is evictions, one is bankruptcies, and the other is foreclosures. I deal with and I network with and I mastermind with a lot of people across the nation, a lot of the industry top leaders of real estate investors. And one thing they've all told me is they've all made their fortune in real estate by focusing on the probate, tired landlords, in other words, the evictions, and people who are facing foreclosures. Those are the 3 most common type of strategies to look for. That and vacant houses. Think about the concept behind a vacant house. If a house is vacant, that's somebody who has walked away from it and doesn't want it anymore. Talk about the motivation. And if it needs a lot of repairs that they can't do, that makes it even all the more enticing for us as real estate investors to look at them. You know, this is what we do. These are the things that we look at. And a lot of people might sit there and say, well, geez, you're taking advantage of somebody else's misfortune. Not really. If you think about it, if we can stop a foreclosure, it saves people's credit. If we take a look at a house that's vacant, ugly, and dilapidated, and we fix that up and make it the best in the neighborhood, we've taken a burden off of the person who owned the house. And oh, by the way, we've made the neighbors extremely happy. A lot of times when I buy these houses, people come up to me, neighbors come up to me and they say, we are so glad you're here. We're so happy that you've actually taken this house and made it look better. I've never once had anybody get mad at me because of that situation. So think about it as the fact that you're building up that neighborhood, you're building up the community, you're returning the community, and oh, by the way, you're helping people who probably don't know what to do. They're sitting there and they're just not quite sure what else to do. So when we come back from our break, we're going to talk about building our dream team. We're going to talk about how we kind of put a lot of this stuff together, who should be on the dream team. This has been Terry Weigel. See you when we get back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to pick up a little bit where we left off before the break. We're going to talk about the 4 types of houses, the 4 types of areas to look at. And I want to make sure that we all kind of have an understanding of it. When you talk about people who are in probate or facing probate, a lot of times what happens is that people inherit houses and they don't know what to do with them. Some of them haven't even seen these houses. So if you're talking about the fact that somebody who lives in, let's just say California, receives a phone call and they've inherited a house from an aunt or a cousin or somebody that they didn't even know, and they've never seen the house, and then they find out that this house has all kinds of repairs that are needed to it, they don't know what to do, and they're not really quite sure what to do with that situation. Unfortunately also, sometimes people, when they pass away, there's not a will, and you now have siblings who inherit the house, and you may have 2, 3, or 4, and they don't know what to do. All they know is that they want to get rid of that house. So one of the things to do when you're looking for houses where the house is in probate is you need to get a good title company, somebody who can help you work through those title issues and make sure that they're okay. So kind of keep that in mind. Evictions. A lot of times real estate investors make one mistake, and that is they don't necessarily buy right. In other words, they don't buy a house that has a lot of equity, and therefore there's no cash flow on the rental. Now, I want to be very clear about this. In my opinion, rental properties are the key to getting rich in real estate, because the renter is actually paying off the loan. And once that loan is paid off, you have all that positive cash flow there. But a lot of times people buy too high. They pay too much for a property, or there's just not enough cash flow. So you have to be careful about that. And one of the things that we look at are people who have been in the business for a long time. They've built up their real estate portfolio. And because they built up their real estate portfolio over all these years and they paid these loans off, sometimes they're just ready to get out of the business and they're ready to sell those houses off. We call them tired landlords. They don't want to deal with the evictions anymore. They don't want to be dealing with nasty tenants anymore, broken toilets, or any of those kind of things. And because of that, they're ready to leave now. So we look at them as people who are somebody that we should look at, and we should send information to as to what we do. Because if they've already bought the houses and they're willing to give us a deal, then by golly, we're willing to take that deal from them. People facing bankruptcies. People facing bankruptcies, you have to be very careful with this, and you have to make sure that you know all the clear understandings of the legalities of working with people who are in bankruptcies. You know, there are certain things you can do, certain things you can't do, and I can't get into the teaching of that right now, but understand this, that as long as you're training on working with people who are facing with, as long as you've been trained on working with people who have faced bankruptcy, then there's a golden opportunity, because as long as they can sell the house and you get the right authorization from the trustees of the bank, then you're able to make a lot of money with that. Okay? The other thing that we target are people facing foreclosure. If somebody's behind on payments and they're about to lose their house to the bank, a lot of times you can go in and negotiate with the bank, not the seller, but with the bank. You can go in and negotiate with the bank and talk to them about selling the